You sit down at your desk with a plan. Tonight, you're finally going to get serious. You work for a while. Maybe you study, exercise, save some money, or work on a project you've been putting off. And for a moment, you feel different. This time, I'll actually stick with it. Then, 3 days later, you're tired. You skip one day, then another. And suddenly, the plan you were so excited about is sitting untouched. The strange part is that you were never incapable of doing it. You already did it. You just couldn't keep doing it. And that's where consistency gets misunderstood. We usually think consistent people have more discipline, motivation, or willpower. But consistency is often much less about how strongly you feel in the moment. It's about how much effort your brain needs to repeat the behavior. Think about your phone. You don't need to motivate yourself to check Instagram. You don't sit there thinking, I need to become disciplined enough to open this app. You just do it. Why? Because the behavior has become familiar. There's usually a trigger. You're bored, waiting, or sitting alone, and the behavior is incredibly easy. Your brain doesn't have to negotiate. Now, compare that with something like studying for 2 hours after a long day. There's effort. There's uncertainty. There's no immediate reward. And suddenly, your brain starts offering alternatives. Maybe I'll start in 10 minutes. Let me check my phone first. I'll do it tomorrow when I'm more focused. Nothing is wrong with you. The easier behavior simply has less resistance. This is why your environment can matter more than motivation. Imagine two people who both want to exercise. One keeps their shoes beside the bed and goes to the same gym every morning. The other has to find their shoes, decide when to go, drive across town, and figure out what workout to do. They may have exactly the same goal, but one person has fewer decisions between intention and action. That's important because every extra decision creates another opportunity to quit. So if you want to become more consistent, don't only ask, how can I become more disciplined? Ask, how can I make starting easier? Maybe you want to read. Instead of deciding every night whether you'll read 50 pages, put the book where you'll naturally see it and read 5 pages after something you already do. Maybe you want to work on a business. Instead of waiting for a perfect 2-hour block, decide on one small task you can start immediately. The goal isn't to make the action tiny forever. The goal is to make starting so normal that you don't need a motivational speech to begin. And there's another reason consistency feels so difficult. Progress is usually delayed. You save money for a month, but you don't suddenly feel rich. You exercise for a week, but nothing dramatic seems different. You study for several days, but you don't suddenly feel smarter. You work on a YouTube channel, but the views may barely move. So your brain looks at the effort and asks, what's the reward? And when the answer isn't obvious, quitting becomes tempting. This is why consistency feels boring. You're doing something repeatedly without getting immediate proof that it's working. But the absence of visible progress doesn't mean nothing is happening. A skill is being practiced. A habit is becoming familiar. Your decisions are becoming easier, and you're building evidence about yourself. That last part matters. Every time you save instead of spending, you're creating evidence that you're capable of delaying a purchase. Every time you study when you don't feel like it, you're creating evidence that your mood doesn't completely control your actions. Every time you return after missing a day, you're creating evidence that one bad day doesn't define your behavior. So missing one day isn't the real problem. The real problem is what you tell yourself afterwards. I missed yesterday, so I failed. That thought turns one bad day into an identity. But missing one day is just an interruption. You can return. And that may be the most important part of consistency. Not never falling off, returning quickly when you do. Because your life isn't built from your best days. It's built from the behaviors you repeatedly come back to. So if you're struggling to stay consistent with something right now,
Don't immediately assume you're lazy or undisciplined. Look at the behavior. Is it difficult to start? Are there too many decisions? Is the reward too far away? Is your environment constantly pulling you in another direction? And what's the smallest version of that behavior you could still do on a bad day? Because consistency doesn't always come from becoming a stronger person. Sometimes it comes from making the right action easier to repeat. Eventually, something strange happens. The behavior stops feeling like something you're trying to become. It just becomes something you do. And that's when consistency stops requiring so much effort. So think about one thing you've been trying to do consistently. What could you change so that starting tomorrow feels a little more normal? Because the goal isn't to become motivated every day. It's to build a life where you don't need motivation for everything that matters. See you in the next one.